Hi, I'm your SLP, Miss Chen. I understand that you've been experiencing a hoarse voice, which is very important for your work. So I did the fees and saw your vocal folds. Now I'd like to show you why your voice might be hoarse and share some tips to help improve it. I'll be using this 3D model of the voice box so you can see what's happening inside your throat. So this is the 3D model for larynx. And here's the anterior, front view, and this is the posterior view, the view from the back. You can put your hand around your neck and swallow, and you can feel there's something moving. That's exactly what we're talking about. So the larynx is made up of three main cartilages. The pink one, it's called thyroid cartilage, which you can palpate around the throat. It's here. It's often called Adam's apple. And from the posterior view, the blue ring-shaped structure is the cricoid cartilage. It's posterior and deep to thyroid, and it connects to the trachea, which is the tube leading to your lungs. And sitting on top of it, um, there are a pair of cartilages called arytenoid cartilages. They slide and rotate to move your vocal fold. And there's also this red structure called epiglottis. It closes over the trachea during swallowing, helping to direct food into the esophagus here and prevent it from entering the lungs, which can cause choking. So mm, now let's look at the larynx from a superior view. Yeah, so you can see the vocal folds more clearly from here. The V-shaped stuff here, it's your vocal folds. Sorry, this model is not really accurate. It's called true vocal folds and it's stretched from the thyroid cartilage in the front to the arytenoid cartilage, which is posterior to it. The space between them is called the glottis. There's a space in between them. So when vocal folds vibrate, they produce your voice, and it's called phonation. So now let's talk about how phonation works. To speak, the vocal folds are adduct, meaning they are brought together closely by the adductor muscles, lateral cricoarytenoid, transverse arytenoid, and oblique arytenoid muscles. So when the glottis is closed, air from the lung builds up below the vocal folds, and this is called subglottal pressure. So once the subglottal pressure reaches the phonation threshold, it forces the vocal fold apart, starting from the bottom edge. And the vocal folds are blown apart from bottom to top. When it reaches its maximum displacement, which means they're brought apart to the most far places, there are two factors that help bring them back together. The first one is the elasticity of the vocal folds. And the second one is Bernoulli effect. So Bernoulli effect lowers the pressure between the folds and sucks them back together. So it's also from bottom edge to the top. So when the folds meet at the midline, again, one glottal cycle is complete. A subglottal pressure begins to build again, and the cycle repeats as long as the vocal folds remain adducted and there is sufficient pressure from the lungs. So now let's talk about why your voice is hoarse. Here's the V's image of your vocal folds. You can see small bumps on both vocal folds. They are symmetrical, occur about halfway down the folds, and are the same color as the surrounding tissues. This pattern suggests that they are vocal nodules, usually caused by vocal misuse. So, as a saleswoman, you likely use your voice intensively throughout the day. So what you're doing is you're slamming the vocal folds together repeatedly, and that causes these nodules, which prevent full closure. of the throat so air escapes, making your voice breathy and hoarse. They also add mass to the vote so more pressure is needed to vibrate up. And often the voice sounds better after rest or worsens with overuse. That's why you found that your voice is especially hoarse towards the end of the day. So I'll try to give you some tips to protect your voice. So first, stay hydrated and limit caffeine as they may dehydrate the vocal folds. So if you're taking any meds that also dry your vocal folds, try to limit them. If you're smoking or you like to eat spicy food, try to avoid them because they can irritate the vocal folds. And when you're talking on the phone, try to avoid cradling it between your shoulder and the ear because it's kind of straining for the vocal folds as this position is not the best for it to work. And if you need to speak loudly for long periods, consider using a microphone to reduce the strain. So try to use these tips and pay attention to how your voice feels each day. I hope my explanation has helped you understand what's happening with your voice.